He was a Nobel Peace Prize winner who was as admired as he was despised. Henry Kissinger, America's top diplomat during the Nixon and Ford administrations, has died at the age of 100. Joining us live now to look at Kissinger's legacy, Professor Stephen Sestanovich at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs. He was also ambassador at large for the State Department during the Clinton administration. Professor Sestanovich, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
You have actually met Henry Kissinger, haven't you?
Yeah, many times.
Tell us about that, the relationship, the circumstances, and your impressions.
Well, I'll give you one episode that's probably relevant because in the 80s, before I worked in the Clinton administration, I worked in the Reagan administration. And Henry Kissinger was a big critic of Ronald Reagan's policy toward the Soviet Union, which is what I worked on. He thought we were being duped, that we were weakening American influence, that Gorbachev was going to trick us. And he came in to see the president several times to try to talk him out of his treaty ideas, his overall approach to personal diplomacy with Mikhail Gorbachev. In the end, I think Reagan looks pretty good and Kissinger looks as though he kind of got it wrong. But he was definitely active in trying to cement his own influence while out of office.
Quickly, for those who aren't familiar, because it was a while ago, which presidents did he serve? I know as Republican and Democrat. And, what were his chief pieces of, I guess, both accomplishments and failures?
Yeah. He's being described as the most powerful Secretary of State of the post-World War II era. Mm-hmm. I think this isn't quite right. He was a very dominant figure as National Security Advisor to President Nixon and then became Secretary of State. But almost from the time he became Secretary of State, his influence was under greater challenge than it had been before. In fact, one of the big influences or lessons of Kissinger's tenure is the difficulty of conducting foreign policy without solid domestic support and without a unified team in your administration. And that was a problem for Kissinger. He had great success in getting the United States out of Vietnam, opening to China, and some agreements with the Soviet Union. But all of this became more controversial as time went on. And he was actually a big political liability for President Ford running for election in 1976. And President Ford was putting distance between himself and Kissinger. I think you could argue that he would have been elected except for the burden of Kissinger's unpopularity and Jimmy Carter's success in using human rights as a critique of Kissinger.
Can you talk a little more about that, in that I've heard him described as ruthless or a cutthroat, but it is all to accomplish a goal, a vision, and world order as he saw it in the place that the U.S. he thought should hold in the world. Can you kind of tell people what that was, what he wanted?
Well, it's complicated because it's so much influenced by his personal charm and intellectual brilliance. There's no doubt that Kissinger was one of the funniest people ever to be Secretary of State, one of the smartest ever to be Secretary of State. And he created a fantastic celebrity status for himself.
Which is rare for people in those roles, right? As a top diplomat. Sorry? I mean, it's rare for a diplomat to have that kind of celebrity status.
Absolutely. It was completely unique. And it made him able to interact with world leaders almost as a peer. And he used that brilliantly. He would reach out to other leaders, flattering them and charming them. People talk about how smart Kissinger was, but in reality, at least as effective a tool in his diplomacy, in my mind, was his personal charm. It wasn't to everybody's taste, but he was a very successful sort of personal manipulator. And I think particularly in the Middle East, that turned out to be very valuable to him.
Yeah, and certainly he got a lot of accolades in his days, right? I mean, he got that Nobel Peace Prize kind of prematurely for getting us out of Vietnam, and then there was more fighting, but and then opening up China, which had been locked down tight, that before that. And President Ford had awarded him a Presidential Medal of Freedom, calling him the greatest Secretary of State in the history of our republic. Do you think that still holds? Does that stand the test of time?
I'll give you my honest answer, no. I think, we are locked in a debate about Kissinger. Was he a master strategist or a master criminal? People who admire some of the diplomatic ingenuity will go with master strategist. The people who didn't like the bombing of Cambodia and his indifferent attitude toward human rights will say master criminal. But really, if you look at the context, you see that actually Kissinger's policies were very much like what other presidents have pursued, other policymakers who were trying to extricate the United States from a stalemated war. So, he doesn't seem as unusual and as he did in the 1970s. His opening to China is something that is probably a lasting achievement, but nothing really came of it in his tenure. It's more as China became more powerful that the relationship became much more interesting and much more significant.
Yeah, but that relationship, I understand, just this summer at age 100, he actually went to China where he was honored. What a storied life and a complicated legacy. I'm afraid we are out of time, but Professor Steven Sestanovich, really appreciate you coming on to talk about Henry Kissinger on this day.